Hi, I am Lisa Crockett, and I am an instructional designer, a development coach, and I am here today to talk to Hillary Landrum. She is a training specialist, and Hillary comes to us from a career as a teacher and a really interesting life, which we wish we had an hour to talk about right now. But we're going to jump in and ask her what motivated, and so Hillary, what motivated you to move from teaching to instructional design?
Well, after 13 years of teaching, I looked back and I kind of had a lot of different experiences, and I took some time to really decide what part of teaching that I liked. And there's parts that you don't like, and that is an easy list. But the parts that you do like is not as easy of a list. And I really liked planning the curriculum. And I actually ended up doing it for my entire department and shared it for my whole school. And it ended up going to the entire district to use some of the tools that I had put together for my students that just helped so many others. And yeah, it was great. And so just from being able to sit back and reflect and decide that that was what I wanted to do, and I'd rather spend my time doing that than the other stuff of teaching that wasn't as fun.
Oh, well, okay. So I know a lot of things about teaching might not be fun, but I am sure you found things about instructional design that are less than optimum. What would you say is the hardest part about being ID?
I think the hardest thing was actually something I didn't even think would be difficult, was working with SMEs.
Sorry. Hardest part.
It's so funny because as a teacher, you're your own SME, and you figure it out as you go, and you are just, your information. I taught math for years. It doesn't change from year to year. Yep. It's not, it's nice. And so I had to change how I talk to people and how I ask questions, so that way I could get all of the information, because most of the time, these don't always understand that you need all of the information. They just want to give you the answer to the question that you asked. Yes. And so you have to learn how to ask like a million questions and not be afraid of sounding like completely like a bozo sometimes.
It helps.
And just, sending the question back. Can you explain this part of the steps and everything? And, I stepped into the tax commission as a training specialist, not knowing anything about taxes. They even asked me what would be the most difficult thing. And I said, I don't know taxes. And so they really liked that I said that, because that meant that I was going to be ready to ask questions. But it has been very much a change of my own mental thoughts of how do I get the answers that I want, and how am I going to then take this information and make it accessible to everybody, because the training I do is internal and external. So I do a lot of outreach. So it's a different world of SMEs.
How many hats in a day do you wear? I mean, we've got so much interaction, by the way, in the chat, and I know you can't look at that while you're looking at it. So excuse my shifty eyes, everyone. But I mean, like Ruby's going, ID as a counselor, a therapist, a flight separator, right? And Megan was agreeing with you, like teachers are everything, right? You're the SME, you're the designer, you're the, how do I keep everyone in the room engaged?
Mediator.
Yeah.
I always seem to have the more difficult students, because I could explain things in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would have a lot of the students that not everybody wanted, but they would come into my room and I just learned how to explain things different. And if you're really good at explaining your curriculum, so if you're a teacher and you're really good at explaining curriculum in different ways, that's really a lot of what instructional design does, is you have to look at it and go, okay, how is this person going to understand it?
Exactly.
How is this person understand it? And so the more you can kind of just step yourself back and go, okay, I have to work with CPAs, I have to work with business owners, I have to work with individuals filing their income tax.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at the information from different perspectives and be able to completely change modes, like without even stopping. It's like, you don't even get to shift gears. You just go straight to the next mode.
But you must be great. And I think it was Christine and Kathy who were talking about, like, someone asked them about software they needed, and they were, administratively QuickBooks and things like that. Like, you're all over that for yourself as a freelancer. Actually, can I hire you? Do that for me, because taxes are hard. So that's impressive.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's been really nice is, like, I've learned more about taxes than I ever thought I would know, because I teach webinars. I have a monthly webinars that I do that teach people how to run a business. And so, I've got
everybody write that down who wants to run a business, because it's so the tax stuff is really important. What kind of business can you be? All of that.
I get to work also with the IRS and the Small Business Administration. So I've been able to connect with not just people internally, but externally. So it's really exciting stuff.
It really, when you get a subject and get into and that you can use, right? And that's just the way that you're positioning it for your learner. I'll bet the work is really great because you're also a learner and you get it.
Yeah.
So we actually have, sorry.
It took me like a month to learn it enough so that I felt comfortable presenting it.
A month?
Only a month. That was with, I would go downstairs to the customer service people and ask them like 20 questions and then write it all down and then come back like the next day and go, okay, I've got 20 more. And they're like, okay. Yeah.
It's one of the biggest skills about being an ID. And you said this when we were talking earlier, it's having an inquisitive nature, because to break things down, you have to ask a lot of questions. Yeah. And on that note, we have a question, not on our discussion, in our QA. And Christine, this is a really good question, actually. She wants to know, how did you deal with managers or job recruiters doubting your skills or expertise when you were interviewing for an ID position? And just to follow that up, just some context is that she heard this was a really recurring problem for teachers who wanted to pursue this career path.
I've got a few different things for that. So first of all, don't ever give up. I went to a meetup with a bunch of instructional designers, and we did breakout sessions, which was kind of cool. You get to meet different people and talk to them. And in the first time I went to it, in one of the breakout sessions, basically a gal was in there that said, yeah, we don't hire teachers at where I work.
They knew you were going there.
I was like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to work at your company. And, but, it really made me reflect internally, because it was like, why would you say such a thing? Why put down teachers so much? And
or any group, really, right? It's silly.
It bothered me so much. I was like, I am going to prove this person wrong. And so I got really into it. I got excited. I found, free different softwares that I could test out and make things. And I started building a website to put out there. And
so good.
Yeah, I just kept going. And I got rejected so many times. And it was hard. And, everybody says, oh, well, whatever. But it's hard when you apply for like 100 jobs and you get nothing back.
Nothing back. But you learn so much. I have to ask you, I'm sure some folks are in the audience are wondering what software you chose and why.
I really like Articulate. I don't get to use it because I work at a state agency and it's a little expensive. I do get to use Camtasia, and I use Camtasia at least weekly. I do a weekly Tuesday tax facts that we put out on YouTube. I produce it. I have a person from our customer service who is the star, and she's so great because when we're filming, we're just talking back and forth, and so it's really great. But Camtasia is my absolute favorite.
I'm with you.
But I do like Articulate, and I wish I could do more with it, but it is pricey for a government agency.
Yeah, it's expensive. And especially if it's one, you get that quantity of mass in an organization, a corporate, where you get such a discount. But even as a freelancer, it took me a long time to buy that software, because you have to really know that you can produce what you want. And that's a good one. But Camtasia, you said 3 though. What would the third one be?
I do like Adobe, what is it? Captivate.
Okay. I actually haven't done that.
I've played with it.
Yeah.
I'm nowhere near an expert. I mean, I'm nowhere near an expert in any of them. I just learn as I go, and I fake it till I make it. And
there you go.
My boss, I amaze him every day. One day I came in and he's like, "Oh no, they changed the website, so your video is not going to match the website, and we've got to change it, and it needs to be done by tomorrow." And I looked at him like, "Whoa, calm down.
Yeah.
What did they change?" And he's like, "Well, when you click on this place, it looks different now than it does in your video." And I'm like, I can screencast that and fix it in 30 minutes. And he's like, "What?"
That sounds like expert to me. That's fast. Hey, I've got so I'm looking at our time, and we have a really great question, another question, and this is about portfolio. So Kanda is asking, I hope I said your name correctly. My struggle is how to build a portfolio, what kind of projects to include, how to host it. Do you have any tips?
So I started learning how to build a WordPress website because at first when I wanted out of teaching, I'm like, I want to do anything. What can I do? And I was like, I can build websites. No, I can't build websites. I can build my own website. But there are so many free YouTube videos on how to build a website. And so I just found one, and I prefer to have a website that I am hosting. Like I'm hosting it with like Bluehost and stuff.
Bluehost, great prices.
Yeah, it's
and
very
responsive.
You know, you have to invest in yourself a little bit to make sure. But YouTube has a bunch of stuff out there. So I just started building a website in YouTube. And I started with things that I knew. So I started making math videos because I taught math for years.
That's perfect.
And, people were like, "That's great, but can you make something that's not teacher?" And I was like, okay. So I made a video on how to, or not a video, I made a storyline on how to banana boats. So I'm a big camper and I love banana boats. And so I made a video on how to make an awesome banana boat.
Funny.
And I mean, it was something new and something that worked out really well.
It's so great.
It's so random, but so with your portfolio, find some of those softwares that you you want to learn, and just choose one at a time. Those free trials run out, and so choose one at a time. And do something that you're comfortable with, that and then step outside of that and do something that you may not know. So I took a class for Camtasia, and I loved it. And they had us do screencasting about a trick in Camtasia. And so that was outside of my box because I was still learning it. But that's something that I can put out there as well. And the more you play with it and the more you practice, the better your stuff's going to get. I've been doing these Tuesday Tax Facts now for about 2 months. So they're not great, but they are better than the first one. And
all you need.
That's the biggest thing is don't compare yourself to everybody else, because one of the things, and I didn't get to finish, but in one of my interviews, and actually for this position that I got, I was so excited about some of the things that I was doing with Articulate, and I was telling them about my website, and they're like, "Well, let's go see it." And they literally pulled it up during the meeting and was looking at my website. I'm like, "Click there," and then they click there, and then they click there, and then you can click there and you can see this. And they were just like blown away about how excited I was with just different things that are in my portfolio. So that's the whole fake it till you make it, because I back at some of that stuff and it's not great. But put it out there anyway, because there's a lot of places that they don't want somebody who's great. They want somebody who's excited, and they want somebody who's able to adapt. And so you may not be an expert, but that's okay, because they want somebody who they can mold into what they need for the position.
So true. That is the wisest. I mean, that really is a great piece of knowledge. Like, seriously, they, learnable, just like you want your learners to be. And that website, by the way, that you do this year, like what Hillary said, you're going to redo it. You're going to redo it. I've been in business 2.5 years. I've redone my site 3 times so far. And I'll tell you, the last time I did it, it took less than a day. And the first time I did it, it took more than a month.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of redoing mine right now. So it's pretty much like the template right now.
Yeah, and templates are good. Use templates. Like
Yes.
you need to do the development, and you need to do all that. We had another question come in, and this one's from Tammy, and she'd like you to share more about why you like WordPress, what elements you like. She's about to create a new website, and she's looking at Weebly and some others.
So I actually have experience. My first website was on Weebly, and it was for my classroom because
4 minutes, by the way. Sorry.
Okay.
No pressure, by the way.
Yeah.
4 minutes.
It was for my classroom, and Weebly is great when you don't know too much. They have the free website that you can have Weebly in the name of your website, so it's fun to play around with. It's got a lot of drag and drop options. It's really kind of user friendly, and it's a good stepping stool into learning how to do it. I just like Word because I have a little bit more control over things. I'm a little bit of a control freak sometimes, and I have a little bit more control over the code of it if I want to try and figure out how to change some CSS or HTML or any of that, which I know this much about, but it's enough to get in and play. But I like that I can do that more in WordPress than in Weebly. So Weebly is more of a drag and drop. Yeah. And there's a lot of drag and drop features in WordPress, but there's also options beyond just the drag and drop, and then you get all the templates and everything. So there's a lot to do. The plugins, especially if you're going to have something from Articulate, to be able to do a plugin into WordPress is so much easier than some of the other softwares out there. So that's why I like WordPress, is that it works for me for what I want, because I want my stuff featured and not like Weebly featured. And there's nothing wrong with Weebly though. Nope. So you find what your comfort is and start there. And again, don't compare yourselves to anybody else. Just do you. Because seriously, you being excited about it is what help you get to where you can be.
Yeah. It's the passion at the end of the day, and you'll bring that to the projects, especially if you're just learning and you're doing projects for yourself. So pick the project that you would love to do and that you have enough knowledge with to bring through to a point where you show what you can do.
And, you can do things for friends. Like I have a friend who's having a hour in a couple of weeks, and they're all doing little phone videos, and I'm going to compile them with Camtasia so that she has it all the way together, and she'll have them to look back on. So, if do stuff for your friends that, it'll impress them.
Sharpen your skills. I just put together a friend of mine her daughter's getting married, so she wanted to see what her wedding dress would look like with the tuxedo husband had chose, which she didn't like. So I put them together, and we stopped to fight because it really actually looked great. He looked great. It was fun, and you're like, this is the kind of stuff you sharpen your skills with, because my Photoshop skills are not stellar, and they were super happy, guys. By the way, it wasn't anything. You guys would all laugh at it. But I did get to play around and learn that new masking tool in there. And
I just use Canva for a lot of stuff.
I've got to learn Canva. Everybody's telling me it's so easy, and I always seem to go around the hard way for some reason.
Canva is definitely your friend.
Nice. Well, we have 1 minute, and I apologize because I haven't gone back to the chat because I've been watching that Q&A, and I am so not as good as Luis and Molly at this, so forgive me. I think we've got all the questions, though, and what advice, as we're walking out the door in the last minute, Hillary, what advice would you give to anyone who's considering making a move from either teaching to ID, or really from anyone to ID?
One thing that really helped me was going into LinkedIn and following a bunch of hashtags that had to do with instructional design, learning development, and then started to connect with people that were posting to those hashtags and building that network, because then you get people posting great questions that you can answer maybe, or you can follow it and see what the answer is. You meet more people I now have more people in LinkedIn than I ever thought I would, because I just want to know more and more about instructional design, different tricks, how to make things the best I can. And so I really recommend going into LinkedIn and following people, and don't feel like you're a stalker, because
No.
there's some great people putting amazing things out there every day. And you don't have to put things out there every day, but it is good to put some questions out there, put your wins on there, put your struggles, and see if people help. But LinkedIn is definitely where it helps to learn from.
And congratulate someone, right?
Yeah.
Who's out there. That's awesome. But to close that off, because I know we're 1 minute over, just, TLDC is an amazing community. I came into this community in 2019 because they were advertising this event, which Toddy was part of then and is part of now. And they had me hooked from that moment. It's a tremendously generous community. It has made me spend a lot of money, and not on the community, but on my toys and tech, because I learned so much about what I can do and what I need to do the job well. So if you're not part of TLDC, a lot of our events are free like this. Just join that way. And if you feel like joining formally, I did really fast, because there's just so much rich content and things to look back at. And we have awesome people like Kara North, who's amazing.
Who posts just ID positions all the time.
All the time, like so generous. And there's so many generous people in the community. So just
and the songs that she listens to with the ID positions, which is part of my favorite.
Seriously. Right. But we, people lead with the heart in this community, and that I can say that because I that's how I found it, and just, it's the only community I found like it. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox and let you on to your next session, and enjoy the lounge and network and do all that good stuff. And thanks for joining us. It was so nice to meet you, Hillary. We need to do a virtual coffee and geek out.
Yes.
Bye guys. I'll send you LinkedIn invite.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.